Good afternoon, everyone. This discussion is part of Virtru's Hear from a Peer series, where we speak with IT and security leaders about the important work that they do in the technology and data protection space. I'm Brett McCrae, the Senior Director of Customer Success for Virtru, and joining me today is Sylvi Joseph, the Director of Technology Operations at Cohoes City School District in New York. Sylvi, how are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
No, we're very pleased to have you. Thanks for doing this, and we're looking forward to chatting with you. Um, so Sylvia, I'd like to start by talking about the work that you do with Cohoes City School District. Can you start us off by providing an overview of your role and some insight into how your schools are handling the pandemic and the remote learning situation today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm director of technology for a small school district in upstate New York. So we don't have a typical team of technology specialists or those that are responsible for all the various aspects of technology on a larger scale. So that being said, my role involves anything that really touches technology, from network and servers, from design, implementation, service, and maintenance, as well as budget and planning. Like I mentioned, we're a small district, so again, I don't have that team of experts, the security specialists, the network techs, the server techs, et cetera. But we do leverage our partnership with our local BOCES and our regional information center to kind of help fill in the gaps there.
Got it.
As far as the pandemic is concerned, I think we're managing about as well as any other school district can. I would hope that we're a little bit better. Maybe something that sets us apart. We put in some new platforms, the least of which is not Virtru. We've put that in for a couple of years now. Some other more digital platforms to kind of take the paper side of it out, because again, with the pandemic, at least early on, we weren't sending packets and papers and things of that nature that needed parent signatures home and whatnot. So Virtru combined with some of these other platforms has kind of helped us navigate, the different challenges that have come up as a result of the pandemic.
Got it. Okay, great, and thanks for that background. You mentioned that you've been using Virtru for a few years now, and you started using Virtru as part of New York's Ed Law 2D. For the listeners that are not familiar with that regulation, could you just give us a little bit of an overview of what that is, sort of the changes or challenges that put in place for your school, and why it was important for you to find a solution?
Yeah, I mean, it's a set of standards and regulations adopted by New York State and as a result, educational agencies in New York. It requires us to meet, certain criteria with regards to the sharing and protection of staff and student data. It's not unlike other standards that are out there for data privacy as it relates to health. We've got HIPAA, and then in the education realm, we still also have FERPA. So it's not unlike those. It's a little more all-encompassing. It's sort of a combination of including a privacy policy, a bill of rights for parents and what they can or can't do or expect from schools and education agencies with regard to their students' data, how it's shared. Some of the caveats with Ed Law 2D is that, if we're working with a vendor, they can't be collecting that data and then using that for monetary gain, selling it for commercial purposes or using it for commercial purposes, targeted advertising based on the collected info. That's definitely a no-no. Parents have the right at any time to inspect or request that their child's data be inspected. It ensures or requires that vendors are following industry standards and best practices with regard to securing the data that they might be custodians of, that they've collected from school districts. It requires the designation of a data privacy officer. So that person or individual will be responsible for kind of overseeing that whole process. And then as far as the technology and security side of it, there's certain things that we have to do in order to make sure that we meet those standards and regulations as well. For those that might or might not be familiar with the NIST cybersecurity framework, It's that'll take a whole day in itself to explain, but that's another set of standards that is kind of under this Ed Law 2D regulation. So we have to meet certain regulations within the NIST framework to ensure that our data is protected in a certain manner. So again, it is a very all-encompassing set of regulations, and it's been around for a few years. But over the last couple of years is when New York State kind of started pushing it more as we've gotten more and more into this digital world.
Okay, great. That makes sense to me. Um, Sylvie, you were one of the early adopters of encryption technology to help sort of prepare you for, for that law. Tell us a little bit about what that was like, and what were some of the conversations, be them, internal that you were having with yourself on how to meet that, maybe other schools that are part of the BOCES, or just other peers kind of in your space. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So let me start by saying it wasn't necessarily just Ed Law 2D that started this. Just over the last several years, we've seen a huge uptick just in society in general in the theft of data for profit. All the ransomware and stuff that's out there, the phishing and everything that's going on. And we just felt that we needed to better secure both our staff and student PII, or personally identifiable information, that data, the names, date of births, addresses, medical, health record information, HR, benefits, claims related info, student IEPs. And again, because all that data has been monetized, at least for the fraudsters that are out there, we figured that this was a way to approach that and try to protect it as the best we could, with some other, obviously, tools and resources at our disposal as well. But I didn't want to wait for somebody else to kind of kick the tires on something. So we started testing different platforms, one of which was Virtru, and ended up deciding that was what we were going to go with. And again, it wasn't that we didn't want to see what other districts or other leaders in the technology space were looking to do or doing already. It's just we needed to get off the ground and maybe evaluate down the line. Maybe if it's not the fit down the line, maybe we can always circle back and look at something different. But just to get us off the ground and protecting what we need to do, or protect rather, I think was the right move for us.
Great. And what was it about Virtru, Sylvie, that made it the choice that you decided to go with?
I think just ease of use more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the other platforms similar in terms of use and what it can do in terms of protecting data or emails and whatnot that you send. But Virtru was seamless. The other platforms had a separate portal that you would have to log into, or it would open up a separate, email window, not necessarily within your Outlook client, or in our case, it's Gmail. Virtru just adds that little extension into the Chrome browser, or potentially other browsers. I haven't used any others with Virtru, but just being able to hit compose on your email and type away as you normally would, or send attachments as you normally would, and then just hit the radio button to encrypt your message. That's what I think made it attractive to us. And it's something that we put out to our users, at least a few key stakeholders in the beginning, testing the different platforms, and Virtru was by far the winner.
Great. I mean, as our our customer success team, I love hearing that. But you mentioned at the beginning, Sylvie, you're a smaller team. That ease of use is something that's really important to you.
Right.
Could you just tell us, I guess, that when you're evaluating software, it sounds like that ease of use and basically overhead for your team is something that you really think about. Is that fair to say?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Because again, it is mostly just a team of one here. I have a technician that works under me doing the day-to-day stuff, but from the management and maintenance side and kind of evaluating the different platforms and technology solutions that we use on the district level, it's something that I'm responsible for. So We definitely pull in our stakeholders for evaluating different platforms and solutions and whatnot, so get their feedback. And even before I was in this role, as in the service industry, in this technology world, my my focus was always on the customer, my customers, meaning the staff and students and administrators in the district, making sure that the solutions that we provided were something that was easy to use, easy for them to implement in the classroom or in the office or what have you. So again, it's something that was important as far as ease of use.
And Sylvia, you just mentioned some of your customers, and I think that's a really, a really great way of looking at, your role. You have customers, constituents, whatever you want to call them, that, that you need you need their buy-in, right? And you ultimately need their cooperation in order to implement these things. Could you
Right.
talk about who, kind of a breakdown of who those customers or constituents are, and what are some of the use cases that they're using Virtru for, or generally data protection for today?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually was just getting a kind of pulse on how Virtru is going across the district. And again, it's something that we periodically do every year. And I sent out an email, and I got a few replies from various staff members. I've got the emails right here from our superintendent secretary and assistant superintendent secretary. So she serves two roles, serving both of them. And the role is a confidential role. And she says that she uses it to send and receive encrypted email, both internally and externally. And you talked about the pandemic earlier on. The biggest use for us so far this year, at least in her specific scenario, has been sending information for contact tracing back and forth to the Department of Health. So that's been huge, especially this year. From our special ed department, it's been another, kind of again relating to student data and IEPs and what have you. Our special ed department sends different information, pieces of information about student data, their IEPs and whatnot, to various agencies outside the district that we might contract with to provide services to these special ed students. So again, HIPAA also plays a part in that, but again, just securing that data that we might send to those other agencies outside the district is huge. Our HR department, obviously, HR obviously dealing with a lot more of our staff data, employment info, benefits claims, things of that nature. It's something that they use almost on a daily basis. If I look through the log on the Virtru dashboard, the HR person or persons, their name is at the top of the list in terms of, on a daily basis, sending out info and receiving info back and forth. Principals as well. They've got cabinet level meetings, at the building, and they're sending whether it's staff or student data back and forth. And they have that comfort level of sending that info now, as long as that email message is encrypted, not having to worry about where it's going or whose eyes are on it and whatnot. And obviously, there's other controls with Virtru to expire those messages or what have you. So again, it's been I think it's hit all levels, including our business office and the financial side of the house, working with the legal teams that we have in the district. So again, I don't think data is out there, no matter what part of the district that you're working in or working for, and somebody's going to get a hold of it. Somebody's going to find a way to monetize it and take advantage of it, and hurt us in the end. So I think it's been helpful in all facets.
Yeah, I think that description was great, Sylvia. I mean, I always, talk to my team, and we talk at Virtru a lot about kind of the aperture of sensitive information, be it whether you're a state and local government, a school, a private company. And I think what you just highlighted is a lot, how much of that is out there. And, this isn't intended to be like a scary or intimidating comment in any way, but it can be a little daunting when you start going through different business units or different, components of your organization and thinking like, oh, well, this one touches this or sends this, and go down the line. It's amazing how wide that aperture can be at times.
Yeah, it's scary. I mean, when you think about it, we're holding on to that data of students and staff and faculty, and I mean, just comparing it to, having your own personal identity stolen, your personal data, your social security number, your credit card information or whatnot. It's a scary thought, just having to remediate that and calling your credit bureaus and whatnot. But now add into that the huge layer of a school district and the amount of data, the amount of individuals' information that you're storing or holding on to, as well as student data, not just adults and staff, but now student data. And the same thing that you and I could be targets of, now students are at that level also. It's scary. Just as a side note here, we talked about HR and employment benefits and whatnot. Something that's come up frequently over the last couple of months is fraudulent unemployment claims, of which I was a part of. We've got our HR person was a part of it. So people are out there, taking over you're employed and you get an unemployment claim in your inbox or postal mail or whatever. And how did that happen when I didn't submit the claim? Personally speaking, I've gotten, I think, 7 or 8 different people's names mailed to my home address for fraudulent unemployment claims. And that's another target, I guess, right now. And again, off the topic a little bit, my home is up for sale. So I guess the target is homes that are on the market. They're using those addresses for fraudulent unemployment claims. So again, all aspects of your life, data is out there for the taking, and somebody will take advantage of it if they can.
It is. It's an interesting world these days. That's for sure. I haven't heard about what you were talking about, the real estate market. That's really interesting, and yeah, what a tough situation.
Yep.
Sylvie, you mentioned ransomware, you mentioned the unemployment claims, and then your personal situation with, selling your home and what's going on with that. What are the, does one of those stand out to you as one of the biggest challenges that you as a director of technology at a school are facing? Is ransomware at the top of the list, or what is up there for you?
Ransomware is definitely up there. I mean, knock on wood, it hasn't hit us yet, and I hope it never does. Mm-hmm. But I think the biggest challenge with securing data, I think it really is education and training around protecting data, kind of getting everybody to buy in to say, hey, yeah, and when you put it into personal terms like that, when you say, think about your personal information, your credit card information, your social security number, your credit getting affected, it kind of opens up their eyes, like, again, makes it a little bit more serious and a little bit more personal to them in terms of securing that student data or staff data or whatnot. So I think the biggest challenge for us, and I think this goes for any educational institution or even in the private sector, I would think that kind of teaching everybody what the right way is to share data if you need to, who should or shouldn't share that data. Again, education and training and opening people's eyes as to what's out there and what could potentially affect us is the biggest challenge.
Sylvia, you just started to get into sort of like best practices. And I think that, at Virtru, we have a lot of customers, and obviously, there's a lot of organizations that are not customers of ours, but they're facing the same sort of challenges. What advice would you have, be it for other school districts, other folks just like you, someone in charge of technology for a school district, for meeting compliance and just generally meeting their data security goals? I think when folks come to us and they're looking at it, it seems like a really daunting task. And I think I want to try to give them some hope here that it's something that, yes, it is daunting and it is important, but it's very doable. What advice would you give to folks, like yourself, as they start trying to tackle this problem?
I'll start by reiterating that point you made. It is a daunting task. At least it seems that way. But I think the best advice I can give is to kind of break it up into pieces. Do your homework. Talk to your peers on what they're doing or how they're approaching it. And I think we've been fortunate to be a part of certain consortiums with our local BOCES and regional information centers. So we have, just a huge group of technology directors or superintendents or business officials, at the district level that are all kind of working together and sharing. This is at a regional level. So we've got, 150, 200 plus districts that are all kind of collaborating to get through this EdLaw 2D challenge, at least in New York State. So other states might handle it differently. But again, I think leaning on somebody, leaning on your peers, at least in your particular niche, is going to be helpful. And, it's not to say that email security is the be all end all. It's one piece of it. So again, look at what's right for you. Virtru may not be perfect for everybody. It's been fantastic and super easy for us. But finding, something that meets your needs, make the case to your stakeholders. You have to have that buy-in. Just kind of purchasing something and putting it in front of them and saying, hey, you're going to use this from now on, isn't always effective. You need to explain why we're doing it. Again, that training piece and knowledge piece is going to go a long way. I think, something like Virtru or something else that may meet, another person's needs is definitely worth the investment. It beats paying a ransom for your own data. I'll tell you that.
That's true. Sylvi, we covered a lot of ground, but at Virtru, we always like to make sure our customers have the last word. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to this conversation or this discussion before we wrap up?
I think I can just reiterate, again, what that advice is. Just take it, a step at a time. Don't be burdened by, the huge weight, especially in New York State. If you're dealing with EdLaw 2D, it is I can't even tell you how many pages the regulation is, but I mean, there's so many parts to it. And if you don't have a team, just like in my case, reach out to your peers. And again, everybody's been great in collaborating and working through it together. And if we don't have the answer, we go searching or asking somebody for help. And everybody's been super helpful in kind of not having to reinvent the wheel or forcing others to reinvent the wheel, because what we need is out there. And again, working together has helped us quite a great deal.
Great. I think that's perfect advice, and thanks for sharing that. And Sylvi, thanks so much for joining me today to share your story and your experience with Virtru, and just in general as someone in your position trying to keep your constituents' data protected. It's been great to hear about the work that you're doing with your school district, and I think that this discussion shed some really great light on data protection, compliance, cybersecurity trends for schools, districts, and also even universities, right, in higher ed. To our audience, thank you for watching and listening. For more videos, you can check out our website, virtru.com, and select resources, or just visit our YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining us, Sylvi, and thank you, listeners. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.